then we've got a class. So let's create a class for a calculator, a very simple calculator. So to define a class, what you do is write the keyword class, the name of the class, and you do the upside dots. Again, I do not remember how these are called in English. Then you can use a function, you can define a function which is called init with keyword self. What is happening here? Okay, so the init is one of the built-in functions that you use usually for a class. And what happens inside init is that it initializes the class with some specific values. The self keyword is a built-in, let's say, keyword that allows you to access the in-store memory of a class. So to store something inside the class, what you do is self dot the name of the variable you want and let's say 0. So this is how you specify a variable inside a function. This will be kept and you can access it outside of the function. So what I've done here is essentially I initialized a variable current equals to 1. So let's check out this very simple example. So let's create a variable that is gonna be storing the object of the class. So what you need to do for you to create and access the class is you need to call the name of the class and 2 parentheses. So what this does is essentially it calls init and creates an object. So if you run this, okay, I have not run this code. Okay, so what you've done here is create an instance of this class and we call it an object. You can access current by doing a.current and the value of a.current is 0. So you get the value of current by doing a.current. Pretty stuff. After that, you can do something really interesting. You can add another function here. Again, you call the self, so you can access this value and every other value that has self.something. And also you want to pass in another argument, which is the amount, how much you want to add to, let's say, the current value. So what you do is current plus equals, we've seen what this means in a previous tutorial, the amount. Okay, so what essentially add does, it takes an integer or a float here and adds it to current. And we can also use another function called getCurrent self, which we're gonna be asking for it to return the self.current. So this method can be called a set method because it sets, or let's say changes a value of our object, and this is a get method which returns a value of our object. So here, instead of using k.current, let's run this code first, run it again. So we change the class inside the memory. We recreate this object with a new class, and what you can do here is instead of accessing this value specifically, you can do get current. And the result will be the same. Then you can do a.add and you add the value of 1. So when you call a.getCurrent again, the value will be 1 because we added 1 to the current. Now a question will be, why is not self argument passed here? So the self argument is passed without you needing to do anything, because when you call a dot, essentially a will take the value of self. So what you do is essentially you do a dot 1. This is like this, but this is how Python handles it on itself. So the self object will be the A, and you won't have to do this. Actually, this, you cannot even run this. It will throw an error. So again, think of self like something you put on the definition of a class so you can access this object, and then you only care about this argument, the next arguments. You do not need to do like this. Okay, you just need to do a dot add and the other arguments. So this is also a very small introduction to classes. We've built a very simple calculator just to give you some intuition about classes work.